you find now is that it costs a lot of money to win an election, which is an investment. Mm-hmm. Who likes Nigeria so much to spend 1 billion naira to become a governor? And if he does, how much do you think he wants to go and throw the money in the lagoon?
Really? Do they spend up to $1 billion?
Excuse me, you can ask everybody. Much more than that. But that's the system. Yes.
Where do they get that
exact
kind of money?
That's why I said to you now, how do you describe a situation, a model that we're running now, that a counselor earns more than a professor?
How do we begin to look at this and make sure it is not this way?
You know, and then that's why you find people desperate to come for a second term or to try and plant somebody in
that
there.
They can control.
They can control, although that doesn't work. Sometimes they become best of enemies and best of friends. I put it that way on a comic level. But the truth of the matter is that if we sit down and we look at ourselves and look at how somebody who runs for an office as a governor and spends so much money, the first set of people to congratulate him are the people from his domain. And why are they doing that? They're expecting more benefits than all other areas. The man is under tremendous pressure. Pressure to want to perform. Pressure to want to satisfy his people. Pressure because when he leaves office, his people will be the first to say, what did you bring to us? Not based on how well he has done all over. Okay. So this is where I stand on this issue.
Mr. Adinuba, let me take you back to a statement you made earlier. You said the Anambra State government invited EFCC.
Yes.
Is that what a working system should be? I mean, is EFCC an auditing firm?
No, not audited.
Okay. So
no.
When was the last time the state audited its books and published it for the people to see?
I know 2016 has been published and it's available on the official website. 2017, there was a change of government. So once it's done, I can bet you it will be available on the website. Before
you came, I just thought to bring that up so that we can move on to look at the question of democracy. How does justice and equity play in a democratic system like ours?
Well, the truth are these two values drive democracy all over the world.
Do we have it?
History.
Do we have it?
We do have, but sometimes not the way we should have.
Oh, is it? No, okay, so is justice and equity defined locally to suit us, or is it a global? Does it have a global definition?
Absolutely global, independent of time and space. But democracy itself does have its own drawbacks. Oh yeah, it does have. In some communities, the minorities may never be voted for. Because at the end of the day, it's a matter of the majority voting. And when you vote on primordial sentiments, based on where you come from, or based on the religion you profess, democracy itself can be a drawback to development. In fact, there are instances, stories by leading scholars all over the world, showing that third world nations have actually developed faster and integrated better in non-democratic regimes than democratic regimes. So many. We look at Singapore, which many people in the West may not regard as a role model in democracy, developed from 1965 to the present day, not as a democracy as such, because you have what is called a strong government. South Korea, the same thing. For the person who laid the foundation for the development of South Korea was a general, General Park, who came to power in 1961 via a coup d'etat. As we are talking, the military are in power in Thailand, and it's one of the fastest developing nations of the world. Malaysia, until recently, was not an example of democracy. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, the prime minister, was a very strong man. The military were in power in Taiwan until recently, a few years ago, and Taiwan developed. It's not democracy that is developing China. China is no democracy.
But that's the
But it's
example we
fastest-
always fall back on is the U.S. It's a
No, it has to
democracy.
do with our old history, the Anglo-Saxon tradition. Okay? But beyond that, yes, it has to do with our own history. Many of us were trained in the UK and in the US. So we are heavily influenced by the values and practices in these places. But having said that, democracy remains the best. In our own case, we have tried dictatorships and that failed us. So democracy may not give you the fastest form of economic development, but it gives you dignity, which is extremely important.
But who is
human
getting,
rights.
who's getting the dignity? The people or those in the corridors of power? Because it looks like in this case, it's those in the corridors of power that are getting the dignity.
No, it's the people. I don't want to sound very theoretical, but there is a major work by one of my favorite intellectuals called Francis Fukuyama. Now, the central argument of his academic article and later a book that led to the most important debates among intellectuals in the West for a whole 10 years is called The End of History and the Last Man. He argues in this book that the search for recognition is one major reason why democracy has been growing and why dictatorships have been failing. He gave the example of East Germany, where under the communist regime, the standards of living were very, very high, but the people didn't have the right to elect their leaders. So watching television, they saw their brothers and sisters across, that is in West Germany, voting, deciding who would lead them and who would not. And they wanted to be like them. So the search for recognition is one of the two engines that drive human history, human progress, human development over these centuries. So you are allowed to vote for the person you want, and that gives you recognition as a full-fledged human being, as a citizen, not just a statistical figure. Oh, you are just there.
But
No.
Sidon, is that true in our environment?
Well, it is true. We have seen other people see governments in courts and have won. We have seen military officers being sued by ordinary citizens for brutalizing them, and they were asked to apologize, and they had to. So this is very, very important. But I agree that when you have human dignity, but you are poor, then that is not the kind of thing we're expecting.
What?
Human dignity must go with a certain level of economic power, empowerment.
To what level? When you say some people have sued government and they've won,
Yes.
what's the journey? What's the process they had to go through to win those cases? Did you ever take that into cognizance?
Well, I know there are a couple of things wrong with our judicial system. Nobody can dispute that. I think our judicial system has to be reformed, and already some reform mechanism has been put, the process is on.
Mr. Oza, he said something about dignity. Have the Nigerian people received any form of dignity since they began practicing democracy?
If I may differ with my brother here, I've not seen anything dignified in human beings in this country based on illegal, which I may refer to as legal fanaticism in the country, where the commoners are hauled into jails because they don't have what it takes to win cases. And that still borders down on not the moral speeches.
You're
or
even
the
taking it too far.
Yes.
Let's start with a leader is going on the road. Because he's going on the road, the sirens are blowing, and you have to get out of the way. If you have to jump in the gutter, that's your problem.
That is what I'm still saying.
A thing as basic
yes.
as that,
It still borders on...
the leaders are
Yeah.
loading it over the people.
Yes,
Meanwhile,
yes.
they're supposed to be the servants of the people.
It still borders on the model.
Okay.
The model propels
Okay. Can
the
we?
kind of administration
Can
that
we
we
just
have in the country today.
So that, no, hold on.
Alright,
We'll take a moment. We'll come back and then we'll look at the propelling force of the model. Please don't go away.